Our first installment of Advent Trivia. So how this is going to work is I'm going to read a story to you from the Bible, and then we'll have a series of questions about the story to see how good of a listener you are. So are you ready? Because here we go. This is Luke 1, 5 through 17. During the rule of King Herod of Judea, there was a priest named Zechariah who belonged to the priestly division of Abijah. His wife Elizabeth was a descendant of Aaron. They were both righteous before God, blameless in their observance of all of the Lord's commandments and regulations. They had no children because Elizabeth was unable to become pregnant, and they were both very old. One day, Zechariah was serving as a priest before God because his priestly division was on duty. Following the customs of priestly service, he was chosen by lottery to go into the Lord's sanctuary and burn incense. All the people who gathered to worship were praying outside during this hour of incense offering. An angel from the Lord appeared to him, standing to the right of the altar of incense. When Zechariah saw the angel, he was startled and overcome with fear. The angel said, "Do not be afraid, Zechariah. Your prayers have been heard. Your wife Elizabeth will give birth to your son, and you must name him John. He will be a joy and delight to you, and many people will rejoice at his birth, for he will be great in the Lord's eyes. He must not drink wine and liquor. He will be filled with the Holy Spirit even before his birth. He will bring many Israelites back to the Lord their God. He will go forth before the Lord, equipped with the spirit and power of Elijah. He will turn the hearts of fathers back to their children and will turn the disobedient to righteous patterns of thinking. He will make ready a people prepared for the Lord." All right, guys, that's a long story, right? And that's a lot of information. So let's go over it really quickly and put it in maybe easier words before we do our questions. So our characters in this story are King Herod, who was the king of Judea, Zechariah, who was a priest, Elizabeth, a descendant of Aaron and Zechariah's wife, and then an angel who appears to Zechariah in the temple. So Zechariah is a priest, and he's doing his job as a priest. He is in the temple, he's burning incense, and he's praying. And while he's there, everyone else outside the temple is also praying. And then an angel appears, and Zechariah was afraid. He didn't know why an angel would be there or what the angel might have to say to him. But the angel had fantastic news for Zechariah. He told him that his prayers were going to be answered, and he and Elizabeth were finally going to have a child. They'd wanted a child for a very, very long time, but God had never given them the ability to have one. And now the angel tells Zechariah that it's going to happen. But the angel tells him something else. He says, "You must name your child John, and John is going to do great and amazing things. He will prepare the way for the Lord." All right, are you guys ready for some questions to see how well your listening ears would work? Let's go to the questions. Question set number 1. Who was the king of Judea? King Henry VIII, King Herod, or King David? The answer is King Herod. What kind of job did Zechariah do? Priest, doctor, carpenter? The answer is priest. How many children did Zechariah have in this story? 0, 1, or 5? The answer is 0. Question set 2. Who came into the temple to talk to Zechariah? Another priest? An angel? Mickey Mouse? The answer is an angel. What good news did the angel have for Zechariah? Zechariah wasn't going to have to burn incense anymore. Zechariah's prayers were answered and he and Elizabeth were going to have a child. Zechariah was getting a promotion to high priest. The answer is Zechariah's prayers were answered and he and Elizabeth were going to have a child. What does God want them to name their baby? Mary, John, Zechariah Jr. The answer is John. If you guys got any of those questions right, you are a fantastic listener. So give yourself a high five or a pat on the back. I bet you guys did a fantastic job answering those questions because you are all such wonderful listeners. But it's okay, we'll have another opportunity to hear a new story next week and answer more questions. But before you go, here are some things you can think about with your family this week. Zechariah and Elizabeth were so disappointed that they'd never had children. But even after they'd given up all hope and they didn't think it was possible, God turned their disappointment and sadness into joy and happiness. Have you ever had a moment where you were so sad about something and then it was turned into happiness? I want to tell you guys a silly story about a time when I was sad. When I was a kid, I was in 2nd grade and I had this amazing pair of shoes. They were brown and they had pink and purple flowers on them, and the flowers had lights in the center. So anytime I was walking, the lights would flash pink and purple and they were bright and I thought they were so cool. But then one day I was playing outside and I fell down and I broke the lights on my shoe. They didn't flash anymore. There was no color. They were just plain brown shoes. I was so sad that my cool shoes weren't cool anymore. But then Christmas came a few weeks later and my parents got me a brand new pair of shoes, and the whole bottom of the shoe lit up, and it wasn't just pink and purple. It was a full rainbow of colors. And even though I'd been so sad about the brown shoes that I love so much, I was so happy to have this new pair of shoes that were even cooler that I would have never had if my old shoes hadn't got broken. Now I know that's a silly story and it's nothing at all like Zechariah and Elizabeth praying and waiting to have a baby. But maybe you can think of something that's happened to you where you were just so sad and then something happened that turned it into happiness. I'd love to hear about that story if you can think of one. But maybe you can talk with mom and dad or grandma and grandpa or whoever happens to be around about times they can think about where they were sad and it turned into joy. I look forward to seeing you guys and talking to you again next week. But until then, remember to be good listeners and always remember that you are loved, and I am praying for you and miss you so much. Have a great week, you guys.